So the last couple of weeks I've been speaking about different attachment styles. I've been speaking about what they are, how they form, and I've gone through secure attachment and anxious attachment. And today I want to talk about avoidant attachment. So avoidant attachment is something that I have been a little bit of, but normally it's the people that I'm attracted to who are avoidant attachers because I'm an intimate anxious attacher myself. I was before I did a lot of work. So I'm a bit of an expert on the avoidant attacher from a looking out point of view, observing and my own interpretation and my own experience of avoidant attachers, and having been one a little bit myself as well. So what is an avoidant attacher? So avoidant attacher is somebody who basically, and all attachment styles is basically how we are in a relationship and how we stay safe, basically how we learned to stay safe when we were little, what we learned about the world, what we learned about from the way our caregivers related to us. So avoidant attachers are people who either in the circle of trust that develops with a child, with the caregivers in the world, either their needs were just really not met at all, or they had a very overbearing caregiver who maybe a very anxious caregiver who flowed in with their energy. Those like the mothers that henpeck the children and nag and nag and nag, and even when they're adults, they don't let go. That sort of behavior from a caregiver can create an avoidant as well. So it's almost like they're over caring, they're oversharing, and often expecting the child to be the caretaker for them. So that can create an avoidant attacher. The other thing that can create an avoidant attacher is an anxious attacher who has just been so hurt, they become avoidant. And that's how I became an avoidant attacher for a while. When my needs just weren't met at all. My needs weren't even important. I wasn't even really able to have an identity of my own. I was just really an extension of somebody else. And they projected onto me their own thoughts, their own interests, and I really had no voice. And I was not encouraged or supported within that space. So I became avoidant because at the end of the day, I just got so hurt that I withdrew and stopped trying, really. And because I was also an anxious attacher at that point, I really didn't know who I was either. So that made it even harder, right? When you're trying to have a voice and create a shape and identity within a relationship and you don't know who you are because you're an anxious attacher, it's difficult when you're with somebody who doesn't see that you have your own identity and your own shape. And really what they're after is just somebody there to support them and their plight in the world. So that's how avoidance forms. So what is an avoidant attacher? Avoidant attacher is basically somebody who avoids attaching as a way of staying safe. And really what they fear losing is freedom. And they see attaching a relationship as that loss of freedom. And then ironically, the polarity attracts them to the anxious attacher, who then comes in with their energy and takes away the freedom of the avoidant, or that's how they perceive it anyway. So avoidant attachers have walls in place, and they have a lot of stuff in place to make sure that they don't get hurt within relationship, they don't have their freedom taken away. And they ultimately, like all of us who are in insecure attachment, so that's any of the attachments that aren't secure, so the avoidant, the anxious, and the disorganized, where we're in insecure attachment. Really what it is, it's about our self-esteem as well, right? Our self-esteem is normally low, and what we're trying to do is get what we need from somebody else in relationship. So the same with avoidant, even though they seem very independent, and they have very strong walls in place, it's actually there to protect themselves because they still have esteem issues, and they still have fear, and they still have pain, right? So avoidant attachers have very solid walls in place, and they think that they're boundaries, but they're not fluid at all. So whereas a secure attacher is able to have very healthy boundaries that can change, their yes can change, the no can change, on how they feel on the day, right? So they can flow from this to that, but they're always feeling into how they feel and what they want in any given moment, and then they can voice that and they feel very secure within that. And an avoidant attacher will have very solid walls in place. They're not flexible at all, and they're not negotiable at all. So how does this look in relationship? Well, an avoidant attacher will often has a grass is greener mentality. So they will find nitpick things with their partner, not initially in the first, few months where it's that whole loved up, amazing chemistry. And there is often a very big polarity and a very big chemistry between an anxious attacher and an avoidant attacher, because it's like kind of these two jigsaw puzzle pieces coming together, where the anxious attacher energy is flowing in and the avoidant attacher is back so far that there is room for this anxious to flow in. So this is chemistry and this oh my God, I finally feel like I'm home, right? Because each is finding within this relationship the energy of what they grew up with, and it feels very natural to them, and it feels in a weird way it's safe, right? Because this is how we created our safety. So when we felt very unsafe and we learned not to trust and that we weren't, our needs weren't being met, the energy of that was what we learned to then create our way to stay safe, either anxious or avoidant, disorganized. So when we meet that energy in somebody else, it's kind of like putting on a pair of shoes that fit really well. And our unconscious mind is not interested in us being happy. It's interested in us staying safe. So it will be attracted to stuff, and it will attract stuff to it, which is what it knows it can survive. And if it survived a really shitty situation when you're a child, it knows it can survive it. So it will choose that over something it doesn't know if it can survive. So it will choose a shitty situation over something that your conscious mind wants because you think that would be amazing. But the unconscious mind is like, whoa, no, I don't know if I can survive that. Therefore, you will find yourself often self-sabotaging something that you really want, and you end up back where you were in the beginning. And anyone who is a yo-yo weight loss person knows this very, very well. You kind of get to where you want to be, and then all of a sudden you're back to where you were, and probably worse. It's because of something that's going on in your unconscious mind. So the avoidant attacher will create separation because they have a fear of intimacy and of losing their freedom within that. So they will create separation often by having this ideal of what the perfect person for them would be like, and then no one is ever going to be that perfect person, right? So they will maybe nitpick, maybe even not out loud, but in their head they'll find fault with their partner. And sometimes it's like, when you that gaslighting stuff that's going on, nitpicking, always putting your partner down, that's what's going on, right? It's their way of not fully bonding with this person because they don't feel safe within that. So they will have a grass is greener mentality, and they will find fault with their partner. Quite often, ironically, what happens is the last partner who wasn't good enough when they were with them, now becomes the poster child for the perfect person and the one that got away. So they will tell stories about the last person to the current partner, right? And hold them up as how great they were. And this is really unacceptable behavior. And I know it has happened to me before. And then when you're an anxious attacher and you're trying to be everything to everybody and trying to be perfect and trying to be, the people pleaser, and then you're getting told these stories of this other person. And sometimes it can be the other way as well. So not so much how this other person was perfect, but the things that they used to do wrong. So then you're tiptoeing around trying not to do those things as well, right? As opposed to just going, fuck that, I'm out of here. I don't need to be controlled in this way. But because we're not secure, if you're not a secure attacher and you don't have solid boundaries in place and you don't have your wants and your needs and your desires and you don't feel it important or lovable, then you will do what you need to do to be lovable, to be important. But unfortunately, you never get there. You're always trying. So an avoidant attacher will, they don't have boundaries, they have walls. They will nitpick at people. They will use excuses not to bond, and they have a lot of rules in place. So, for instance, I don't know if you've watched that movie Maid of Honor with it was a guy that was McDreamy out of Grey's Anatomy was in it, and he had all these rules. He didn't have a relationship. He had several women that he would see and have sexual relationship with, but he had all these rules about them not being able to stay over, or they couldn't see him 2 nights in a row unless it was this or that. And it was his rules or the highway. That is a perfect example of an avoidant attacher. And in fact, that movie is a beautiful example of an avoidant attacher and an anxious attacher. With the female. So they have a lot of rules in place, and those rules are not negotiable. So and they see them as their boundaries, but really what they are is a way to not relate. So avoidant attachers, they don't feel safe in love. They think that they're going to lose their freedom. They often feel smothered. They will share sexual intimacy, but not emotional intimacy. So they can't share their emotions because that doesn't feel safe. They're distrusting of others, and they will prioritize work, friends, anything else over their relationship. So they will have maybe a few good friends that they are able to be with, and they will prioritize their time with their friends or their time with work, or they'll always find reasons why something else is a priority. And it's always very logical and very acceptable for why they can't prioritize their partner. They often like animals more than people, and they undershare their information. So whereas an anxious attacher overshares, an avoidant will undershare. And they have a lot of difficulty asking for what they need, right? And if they are confronted, they will shut down or run away. So how can an avoidant attacher heal? Well, first of all, observation, right? Dual awareness, observing this within themselves, observing that, hey, perhaps what I thought were my boundaries are actually not boundaries, they're actually walls in place to protect myself. And then when they feel, if they're in a relationship and they feel the need to run away, if they feel the need to seek freedom or to seek space, actually voicing that and letting their partner know, hey, listen, I'm feeling a bit smothered, I'm feeling a bit this, I'm feeling like I need a little bit of space, or I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling vulnerable at the moment, and I want to practice sharing intimacy, but just a small bit, all right? So not trying to, it's like anything. When you're trying to break a habit, you just do it a little bit by a little bit, rather than trying to get rid of all of your habits at once, right? So if you've got a whole heap of bad habits, rather than trying to go cold turkey and get rid of all of them at once, just changing a little bit by a little bit and letting our unconscious know that it's safe to be like that and to develop this new sort of like way of being. So if you are an avoidant attacher, within that, you little by little, you can be honest and open and transparent with your partner. And look, if you do that and you get slammed, and if you do that and they're not there for you and they can't hold space for you and they can't do what you ask in this situation when you really are trying to heal and move towards connection, then perhaps you're in relationship with somebody who it's not compatible. So if they're not able to look at their own woundings as well and to allow you the space to work on yours, then perhaps you're not in a compatible relationship. But if you are, then you can voice your vulnerability and ask for what you need, as in a little bit of space, but not making it be about the other person, right? Not making it be about you're smothering me, but just, I need some space. I need a little bit of space. I'm going to go away for a few hours. I'm going to go for a walk by myself, or do whatever it is I need in this moment to have that, to give myself the freedom that I need, that I feel I'm longing for at the moment, and then I will be back. Or I would really like to be emotionally intimate with you, but I'm feeling fear surrounding that. So can you just hold space for me, and we'll just go little bit by little bit. So for an avoidant and for an anxious, the best way to heal actually is in relationship, where your stuff's being triggered up and you're aware of it. And rather than reacting to it, you can then sit with it and heal towards it little by little, coming back from where you are. So where the anxious attacher is in the avoidant space and the avoidant is way back here, the anxious attacher pulling back and learning to be by themselves, the avoidant moving forward and learning to be safe and secure in relationship. So I hope you got something out of that. If you think you are an avoidant attacher, really, then it's really just that initial awareness, just starting to be aware of how you're feeling, starting to be aware of what you're thinking, realizing that thoughts aren't true, they're just thoughts, right? Starting to be aware of the sensations in your body that are indicating when you feel like, or you're feeling that fear, or you're feeling that lack of freedom, and being aware of the sensations and just allowing whatever you find there. Knowing that all of you, there's nothing wrong with you, right? This is just how you learn to be secure. It's just your unconscious mind's mapping. It's the programming, it's the hormones, it's the energy that's trapped inside from the lessons that you learned as a small child that needs to be breathed out and needs to be allowed to be there so that it can start to move through you and not control you anymore. So by going inward and seeing what is inside us, we start to become the masters of our mind rather than having the mind master us. And we are able to start to work back to our true essence, our true nature, which really is love. Okay, we are really just love. We are love that got put into a human body and then taught that we weren't enough. And now we're all struggling to get away from that and move back to that essential nature of being love. So if you haven't listened to my podcasts on this, then the Living Through Heart podcast I do go through this, and I have got some other videos around on my YouTube channel where I'm working my way through this series of 5 different episodes on attachment styles. There are whole books and stuff on attachment styles that you can read, but at the end of the day, they are theory. And you can feel like you can control your mind by having all the knowledge, but at the end of the day, it is just knowledge, and you're not controlling your mind by having knowledge. And there's a lot of people who get caught up in just learning, because they think that that's the way to healing, when really the healing is seeing what's inside and seeing how to move with that, right? And how to release what needs to be released, and to find the safety within, how to give yourself what you need, basically, rather than searching for it for others. So I have 2 amazing mentors as well within the Tantra space, where I'm learning about myself and learning this stuff as I journey to become a Tantra embodiment practitioner, as well as all the other stuff I'm doing already with the hypnotherapy and the psychotherapy. Georgia Rose and Chantel Raven, I do have their details. If you go to my podcast, I have, and also my YouTube channel on the podcast, on this series that I'm doing, I have links to them, so you can go and check out them a little bit more. You can find them on Facebook, and Chantel Raven has the embodimentawakeningacademy.com is her website. So you can go, they have courses created to help you move through this stuff, to help you become more aware, and to help you start to embody and to release what is trapped inside. Okay, next time I talk about secure attachments will be the final, it's not going to be the final time I ever talk about them, but it will be the final installment of me working through. And next time I'm going to talk about disorganized attachment, which is a really interesting one. And if you are in disorganized attachment, you really need some help to move out of it. It's probably not going to be something that you can move through yourself, because it's kind of like a lot more complex. It's the most complex of the insecure attachment styles. I hope that you are well and that you are happy, and that you got some value from this video. And if you do want to reach out to me, you can email me or reach out to me through Instagram or through Facebook, or any which way that you can find me and connect with me. And I will see you in the next video.